This week on Cool Bike Projects, we're overhauling and restoring this 1998 Kona Lanai mountain bike. So a couple weeks ago, I brought up the topic of how do you know if a bike's worth fixing or not? And this bike is definitely one of those where it's not a terribly high-end bike, but definitely something that I think means a lot to people that have ever had a Kona mountain bike before. And so the goal of this project was to overhaul this, make it rideable with mostly the same parts I had before, and keep it within a budget that you could resell the bike and hopefully recoup a small profit. So I hope you enjoyed this build and look forward to some how-to videos that come out because of this project. So of all the bottom brackets I've ever worked on and gotten stuck, this one takes the cake. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So with the help of my twin brother and my nephew, we heated up the bottom bracket shell, tried a couple different angles with this cheater pipe, and eventually, with a lot of effort, we got it to finally pop free. Notice it was my nephew who actually got it to turn. A couple weeks ago, we talked about trying to salvage some of the original parts on this bike. These Well-Go pedals are not bad, but there's a lot of rust building up on the cage and the hardware. So, using a bottle of Evaporust, we'll be soaking these pedal cages, bolts, and even the original chain to try and get some of the rust off of here, and then repaint them to give it a better finish. The great thing about Evaporust is it's not using a harsh chemical, and you can reuse the same fluid multiple times. So in an effort to save these shifters, I re-lubed the springs and the lifter pawls, and then I simply repainted the plastic covers. It's amazing how many of these CI deck shifter sets were made, and yet the plastic simply didn't hold up. I couldn't find a single pair for sale anywhere. After getting the drivetrain assembled, not only did I lube the chain, but I did the derailleurs, pulleys, cogs. Any pivot that had not been touched in probably 20 years was in need of some serious lube. So one last recommendation I'd make, whenever you're running V-brakes and you're after a little bit more stopping power, there's a number of companies that have come out with some 5mm brake housing, which essentially is the same as SIS shift housing. Rather than having a spiral coiled inner wire, it's straight pull, which makes very little flex when you pull the brakes. It's amazing how good these little V-brakes work with this new housing. Well, this bike is running good again. The original goal was to spend about $35 on cable and housing, maybe a chain. Instead, we replaced the stem, the top cap, cables and housing, and the bottom bracket. About $55. Still not a bad little investment on this bike that probably cost closer to $350 when it was new. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hope to see you on the trail soon.